add some sugar to it, it's perfectly fine. I promise.
Can I ask a question, Eddie? And
Yes,
I'm, and
ma'am.
I'm, and I'm truly wondering, can a black man or a black woman be pro-black if they put their hands on their significant other who's black?
Can I
Because
ask it again?
can a black man or black woman still consider themselves to be pro-black if they are abusing their partner who is black as well? Because one of the
Can they
examples
be
that
right? So like it's that stuff too. So I did mention, self hatred, right? So that would be within the context of that as well, right? So it's a lot of like dusty Negroes too who ain't about shit and don't show that level of compromise to elevate the black woman or elevate the black man, right? So we have that within our own community, right? Things that need to be filtered out, right? People who just don't have that level of context or that level of pride in being black, period, right? So to your question, like, yeah, like they're within the same vein of anti-blackness as well. Even them being black and dating black and loving black, right? They're within the same context let me say that, to me, as somebody who would date outside the race.
Question, Rhonda. Were you asking that question in comparison to the rape, rob, and murder that we suffered at the hands of white people? You saying
I'm,
because we hurt each other?
I'm wondering because one of the examples was that we have a long history with white people within this country of
Mhm.
violence, and I'm wondering because violence didn't just stop or start with white people. It also happened with Africans who also sold other Africans to white people. And I'm wondering
Well,
how
well,
if we
so
say talk about risky business. I'm just
well,
wondering.
yeah, no, you talking about risky business, but do you know what happened to Do
Can
you
I
know
finish?
what happened? Well,
Can I finish
because
that?
I gotta correct one point though,
What's that point?
because you said it didn't just start with them, but do you know what happened to Cain after he killed Abel?
What happened?
He lost all his pigmentation.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you said it started, so I just want to make sure that's damn near the beginning.
That's a religious example. I'm just going historical opposite. I'm sorry, not opposite, but outside of religious. And I'm talking from a historical example of Africans selling other Africans to individuals who lack pigmentation. Now we get into this country and we still have forms of violence that are happening, which then I ask the question, can you be pro-black and commit violence against somebody who is black? And I think that's a valid question. There's another question that I have, but I see Shannon, you got your hand on.
Well. Let me address one of those points though. You think because people have black skin, they're the same person? No, that's what it kind of like what you're saying. But those people on the west coast of Africa weren't the same people,
I
right?
don't
So
think that.
they have different progenitors, right? So
I
they're
understand.
literally not even the same, like whatsoever. So the people who sold them weren't the people that were sold. I just want to make sure that there's a distinction there.
Give me something more. So you're saying from West Africa, you're saying that somebody from the internal parts of the Congos were
Yeah.
being sold
So
by individuals who were West Africans, and so individuals who are West Africans never sold one another.
no. So what I'm saying is people lived on that coast, right?
Mhm.
But they're different people. They just may have like similar looks. So like all niggas ain't just African, right?
No,
Just like
there's different cultural ties there. I mean, I think it's with the
no, we ain't even the same. We don't come from the same father.
yeah, that's going into a religious, and I think that's going more into like a personal belief around
Nah,
that.
that's more tribalism than anything, but I get what he's saying.
But I get what you're saying with it. What I'm asking is, can you be pro-black and still commit violence against the black person? Just given from that example, that's what I was wondering.
Okay.
So I just had a quick question because Rhonda's question triggered. Okay, we're talking about dating outside of your race and being pro-black. Totally get it. But let's talk about black people. Like, just a quick question: if black people are dating black people, at what point are you not pro-black again? When, like, if a black man is creating multiple families all over the place and not leading a strong black home, is he no longer pro-black? Because that adds to the breakdown of our black families. Like, even when we're dating each other, there are some points or some actions we take within our own communities where you can't be pro-black because you're breaking down the structure of a strong black family by having multiple women or multiple families all over the place and not being in your children's life consistently or something like that. So even in our own community, just dating a black person doesn't make you pro-black. Like,
Isn't it odd to me? It's odd to me though, like how black people start to target themselves, right? Like you guys are literally targeting us as opposed to answering the question.
No. I answered the question. We're expounding upon that because now we're saying everybody went around and we all said what we thought about dating outside of your race and whether that took away from you being pro-Black.
Mhm.
Totally cool. So if we've expressed those thoughts and some people said, no, you can't be pro-Black and do that. Well, I just had an additional question. If we are making strong Black communities, what does it look like to be pro-Black when we're dating each other? Because now we've established to be pro-Black, you gotta date within the race, keep a strong Black family, invest in us, invest in our communities, all this other stuff. Well, what we're doing in our communities, let's be real, are we doing the best for our families, for our structures, for our investments? Are we taking, because then at that point, if you're not, it don't matter who you're married to.
My only other question, the one that I just thought about, was, can a white person ever, and let me back it up. So by definition, by virtue, they'll inherently be racist. Can a white person ever truly get to a place of liberation?
No.
Can they become woke? Can they take
No.
accountability? Or will they always be inherently racist?
They'll always be inherently racist.
Yeah, it's always going to be there.
I think
But-
to your
but-
example comes back though. We never really defined what pro-Black is.
Yeah.
And before we got on today, I was just looking up a few different definitions, and everyone kind of just says different things. But the one that I liked, and I think it kind of goes in with our conversation, is pro-Black is a lifestyle that encourages the economic growth and development of the Black people as a whole, with the purpose of increasing the wealth and population of Black people around the world. Which goes into Shan's point about pro-Black is not just about interracial dating piece, but it's also about making sure that we as Black people are being ourselves, right? So it comes down to starting at home with the family, right? When we have these families, are we actively involved? Camp, you always talk about marriage and the Black family and this, that, and the third. Are we doing what we're supposed to do to structure the Black family, the Black household, to contribute to the overall success of Black people, which would be pro-Black?
Okay, yeah. I think it encompasses all of it, right? But I think who you lay with has to matter in that, right? So if you're not doing one of those things or two or several of those things, you can disqualify yourself. So yeah, you have to take care of your family, right? But also if you sleep in white, that is a strike against you. And you don't need a bunch of strikes. One strike is enough. So yeah, if your spouse is a white woman or a white man, you are disqualified because pro is for in all things, right? Because you are not going to be able to be absolute when you're in that situation. You have to consider different things for many different reasons, and then when kids come into play, you get even more grade in your thought, right? Because you have to consider now that side. You know what I mean? And I just think it's gonna make it impossible for you to continue in the focus of being pro-Black.
So then, being that we're going by these strikes, right? So going back to the family piece that Shan was saying, if an individual has a child or multiple children, right, outside of the covenant of marriage or whatever, would that be a strike against them for being pro-Black?
No, what does it mean? They're leaving their children hanging? Are they taking care of the children? Does a relationship not work?
Outside of the marriage.
And also, when we look at if we were looking from that perspective, we would have to know why. See, now we're getting into a different umbrella. Why did he step out? What was going on in the marriage that made him step out and have other kids? And now we're just opening up a different umbrella.
But what if it existed before they got married?
You mean what existed? Him being a hoe, or was him having?
Okay, so I'll give an example. I know an individual who is Black people this, Black people that. I'm pro this, I'm pro that. But then he's got 2 baby moms, ain't married neither one of them. But I'm for the Black people this, I'm for the Black people that. But it's also like for me, like you've contributed to the stereotype of Black people. So what did you do to not become a stereotype for Black people?
Okay, I get what
but that doesn't align though.
Right, exactly.
It might be. I agree that he.
One at a time. One at a time. One
The
at a time.
context of what Hamp is saying is that when you don't meet these markers, right, it's a strike against you. So as that individual now, because he's not with these women, these Black women, is that then a strike against him, according to what Hamp was saying?
I think the argument you brought up doesn't align, and it kind of dissolves because he might be an ancient father. He might not be an ancient spouse, right? But if that family is still black, even if that family is blended in a way in which we're co-parenting or etc., like that unit is still black per se, right? But all those other things absolutely still on cue with what you're saying, like, oh, you're trash as a father, you're trash as a spouse, but you're there in terms of like how you guys connected. Might be the mom that might not be shit, right? Like all those things, all those different variables might be there, but it's the core of it is it's still three black people. Let's just say mother, father, and child, right? There's three black people that were still, put into a situation where it could have worked, but it did not. But we're still talking within the context of blackness. Now, would I call that anti-blackness? Not necessarily. I would just call that a broken family unit, which absolutely would be within the context of a stereotypical, like, damn, like y'all didn't work it out. It's not pro-family in that way that we want the black community to look. But I wouldn't say that it's in the same vein as somebody dating white. Like I feel like the white thing is just extreme. Like you are making a hardcore decision to go outside of yourself to find love, to find validation, right? I think that's difficult when the context of something negative still within the black pot. Not a good thing, but it's still within the context of that.
Yeah, because Alex, look, religion is resolved, It doesn't mean people had malicious intent or they intended to be as such, right? So let's like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and we out.